The Book of Tobit proves that prayer works. Have you ever wondered why a book filled with miraculous healing, angelic encounters, and spiritual warfare was intentionally removed from most Bibles? For over 3 centuries, early Christians treasured this sacred text until it mysteriously vanished. Today, we're uncovering the forbidden wisdom of the Book of Tobit, a story so powerful it challenges everything you thought you knew about faith, divine intervention, and the invisible forces working behind the scenes of your everyday life. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover might just transform how you see the world around you. The faithful man who lost everything when righteousness meets unexpected darkness. Picture this: a man who dedicated his entire existence to serving God, helping the poor, and honoring the dead suddenly struck by a tragedy so bizarre it seems almost comical. This is where our journey begins, in the ancient city of Nineveh, deep within the Assyrian Empire. Meet Tobit, a devout Israelite living far from his homeland, exiled among people who worshipped false gods and abandoned the traditions of their ancestors. While everyone around him compromised their beliefs to fit in, Tobit stood firm. He secretly traveled to Jerusalem for religious festivals, gave generously to those in need, and performed one of the most dangerous acts of devotion imaginable, burying the bodies of his fellow Israelites who had been murdered and left to rot in the streets as a public humiliation. This wasn't just an act of kindness, it was an act of rebellion. The Assyrian king had forbidden these burials, making them punishable by death. Yet Tobit risked everything, night after night, to ensure his people received proper burials according to God's law. He was a beacon of hope in a dark time, a man whose faith never wavered even when it cost him dearly. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn, one that forces us to wrestle with life's most difficult questions. One evening, after performing yet another secret burial, Tobit returned home exhausted. Because touching the dead made him ritually unclean, he couldn't enter his house, so he lay down outside in the courtyard to sleep. He didn't cover his face, unaware that birds had nested in the wall directly above him. While he slept peacefully, droppings from these sparrows fell straight into his open eyes. Within days, a strange white film began growing over his vision. He sought help from every physician available, spending what little money he had on treatments that only made things worse. The righteous man who saw God as truth so clearly with spiritual eyes could no longer see the physical world around him. Total blindness descended like a heavy curtain, cutting him off from the life he once knew. Think about the profound irony here. This wasn't divine punishment for secret sins. There was no hidden wickedness being exposed. It was a random, almost absurd accident. Yet it completely shattered Tobit's world. His life's work of helping others came to a grinding halt. His wife Anna had to take up weaving to support their family, which created tension and misunderstanding in their home. Neighbors who once respected him now mocked him, questioning whether his good deeds meant anything at all. This story confronts us with one of humanity's oldest struggles. Why do good people experience terrible suffering? If God is just and loving, why does he allow the faithful to endure seemingly senseless hardships? Tobit became like jabbroken, accused, questioning, yet somehow still clinging to faith by the thinnest thread. His despair grew so overwhelming that he eventually prayed something shocking. He asked God to let him die, not out of spite or anger, but from sheer exhaustion. He couldn't see a path forward anymore. The darkness had swallowed everything. But what Tobit did unrealize what he could impossibly see in that moment. That his prayer was about to trigger something extraordinary. Sometimes our moments of deepest despair are actually the catalysts for divine intervention beyond our wildest imagination. While Tobit sat in darkness, hundreds of miles away in the city of Ecbatana, another soul was crying out in equal anguish. Her name was Sarah, and her nightmare was just as incomprehensible as Tobit's, but far more terrifying. Sarah had been married 7 times. Let that sink in for a moment. 7 weddings, 7 hopeful beginnings, and 7 devastating tragedies. Each time, before the marriage could even be consummated, her husband was struck down and killed. The cause, a malevolent demon named Asmodeus, a spirit of jealousy, destruction, and death, who had attached himself to her like a curse. In her culture, this was more than personal. Tragedy, it was complete social destruction. Marriage defined a woman's value and future. To lose one husband might be considered misfortune. To lose The whispers and accusations became unbearable. Even her household servants mocked her cruelly, suggesting that she was the one killing her husbands, that she was cursed, that she should just die and save everyone further trouble. The shame crushed her spirit until she stood at the edge of suicide, contemplating whether ending her life was the only escape from this living nightmare. But at the last moment, she stopped. She thought of her father, the only parent she had left, and realized that taking her life would only compound his grief and bring disgrace upon their family name. So instead of self-destruction, Sarah turned to the only place left to turn: heaven. She lifted her face toward the window, toward the sky beyond, and prayed through her tears. Like Tobit, she asked God to take her life not out of rebellion, but out of exhaustion from carrying unbearable pain. Here's where the story becomes breathtaking. At that exact moment, with Tobit praying in Nineveh and Sarah praying in it, separated by vast distances, both of their prayers rose together before the throne of God. The text explicitly tells us that heaven wasn't indifferent. God wasn't distant or uncaring. He heard every word, every tear, every desperate plea. And when heaven hears genuine anguish, heaven responds. But God's answer wouldn't arrive with thunder and lightning. There would be no dramatic parting of clouds or angelic choirs announcing deliverance. Instead, his response would come in the humblest, most ordinary form imaginable, so ordinary that no one would recognize it for what it truly was, until the perfect moment of revelation. The solution to these tangled threads of suffering and demonic oppression had already been dispatched. An angel named Raphael, whose very name means God heals, was sent on a rescue mission. His assignment: to restore Tobit's sight, free Sarah from the demon's grip, and unite two broken families through an unexpected marriage. The stage was set. The prayers had been heard, and divine intervention was about to unfold in ways no one could have predicted. The angel who walked in disguise. When heaven's answer looks surprisingly ordinary, imagine if the answer to your most desperate prayer was standing right in front of you, but looked so completely ordinary that you walked right past it without a second glance. This is exactly what happened next in our story, and it reveals something profound about how God actually works in our lives. Back in Nineveh, Tobit's prayer for death stirred an unexpected memory. He suddenly remembered a significant sum of money, 10 talents of silver, that he had deposited years earlier with a relative named Gabael in the distant city of Rages. Now, thinking his end was near, Tobit wanted to settle his affairs and ensure his family would be provided for after his death. He called for his son Tobias and delivered what he believed would be his final words of wisdom. It was a beautiful, heartfelt speech filled with timeless advice. Honor your mother all the days of her life. Remember God in everything you do. Give generously to those in need. Stay away from immoral living. When you marry, choose someone from your people who shares your faith. Treat workers fairly and pay them promptly. Most importantly, never do to anyone what you would hate having done to yourself. Then came the practical matter. Tobit explained about the silver deposit and instructed Tobias to find a trustworthy guide who could accompany him on the long and dangerous journey to Media to retrieve it. This wasn't a casual errand, it was a treacherous trek across hostile territory, and Tobias would need someone experienced, reliable, and knowledgeable about the route. So Tobias went out to search for such a companion. And here's where the story becomes absolutely fascinating. The scripture simply says he found a man standing there, ready and waiting. No fanfare, no supernatural announcement, just a man on a street corner who happened to know the way to Media and was willing to travel for a fair wage. This man introduced himself as Azariah, son of Ananias, claiming to be a distant relative from their tribe. He knew the geography perfectly. He could recite the family tree accurately. He agreed a reasonable payment for his services. Everything about him seemed completely, unremarkably normal. But this ordinary-looking traveler was actually Raphael, one of the 7 archangels who stand in the immediate presence of God Almighty. Think about the stunning simplicity of this divine strategy. God's answer to Tobit's desperate prayer wasn't delivered with trumpets and glory. It came disguised as a helpful stranger offering traveling services. This wasn't deception, it was divine wisdom operating on a level we often miss entirely. Throughout Scripture, we see this pattern repeated. Angels appear as ordinary travelers who share meals with Abraham. They show up as strangers who wrestle with Jacob. They arrive as fellow prisoners who interpret dreams for Joseph. Heaven's messengers rarely announce themselves with spectacle. Instead, They infiltrate quietly, working within the natural flow of human life until their mission requires revelation. This teaches us something crucial about recognizing divine guidance. We're often waiting for burning bushes and parted seas, but God frequently sends his help through chance encounters, random opportunities, and coincidental meetings with the right person at exactly the right time. Tobit, unable to see physically but still trusting spiritually, welcomed this stranger into his home. He asked about Azariah's family background, not out of suspicion, but from cultural courtesy and a desire to ensure his son would travel with someone honorable. The angel played his part flawlessly, providing satisfactory answers that put the family at ease. They agreed on payment, 1 drachma per day, plus expenses, with a bonus upon safe return. Fair. Simple, ordinary business arrangements for ordinary travel. Tobit blessed his son and the mysterious guide, sending them off with prayers for safety and success. Interestingly, even the family dog trotted along behind them, a small detail that adds touching humanity to this supernatural mission. But Anna, Tobias's mother, wasn't comforted by prayers and blessings. She wept bitterly, challenging her husband. "Why have you sent our only child away? He's the support of our old age, the one who helps us and cares for us. Money isn't worth losing our son." Tobit tried to reassure her, saying something that he believed, but could impossibly understand the full truth of. "Do you not worry? A good angel will go with him. God will make his journey successful." He was speaking better than he knew. The good angel wasn't just accompanying. Tobias was the companion. Heaven had already answered. Protection was already guaranteed. The mission was already secured. They just didn't know it yet. As Tobias and Raphael traveled together, they eventually reached the Tigris River and stopped for the night. Tobias went down to the water to wash, and suddenly a massive fish leaped from the depths, lunging at him with its mouth open, trying to swallow his foot. The young man cried out in terror, but his companion remained completely calm. "Grab it," Raphael commanded. "Don't let it get away." Tobias wrestled the enormous creature and hauled it onto the riverbank, probably still shaking from the adrenaline, and then the angel gave him instructions that must have seemed absolutely bizarre. "Cut open the fish, but save the heart, liver, and gall. Keep them carefully, because they're useful as medicine." Now, this is where modern readers often stumble. Medicine made from fish organs. This sounds like ancient superstition, folk magic, maybe even paganism. Why would an angel of God be teaching such practices? But we need to understand what's really happening here. This isn't sorcery, it's divine accommodation. God was working through physical elements that people of that time and culture could understand and trust. The power wasn't inherent in the fish parts themselves. A fish liver can't cast out demons on its automatic authority. A fish gall can't cure blindness through chemical properties alone. The real power came from one source only, God himself. And that power would be activated through one thing: obedient faith. Raphael explained the uses. Burn the heart and liver to drive away evil spirits and demons. Smoke will cause them to flee permanently. Apply the gall to eyes covered with white films, and sight will be restored. These physical actions were faith-activated tools, symbolic rituals that required trust and obedience to unleash spiritual reality. By giving Tobias these specific tasks, the angel wasn't making him a passive spectator in God's plan. He was inviting him to become an active participant. This is a crucial principle. Faith isn't just believing the right things. It's acting on God's instructions, even when they seem strange, illogical, or even foolish by worldly standards. The demon, the bride, and the battle plan confronting evil with faith and unexpected weapons as they continued their journey. Raphael began preparing Tobias for something he hadn't anticipated: a wedding. But this wasn't going to be an ordinary marriage ceremony. This was about to become a battlefield between good and evil, life and death, blessing and curse. The angel started by telling Tobias about a relative named Regal who lived in Ecbatana, the very city they were approaching. He had a daughter named Serabudifel, virtuous, and according to the laws of inheritance, the rightful bride for Tobias as her closest kinsman. But there was a problem, a terrifying problem that made Tobias's blood run cold. He had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. 7 marriages, 7 dead bridegrooms, 7 wedding nights that ended in tragedy before they could even begin. And behind it all lurked Asmodeus, a demon whose very name means destroyer or the one who causes to perish. We need to pause here and understand what this demon actually represents. In the ancient worldview presented in this text, Asmodeus isn't portrayed as an equal and opposite force to God, some dark deity with comparable power. He's a parasite, a creature of chaos, a spirit of entropy that despises the goodness of God's creation, particularly the life-giving union of marriage. He embodies jealousy, death, and destruction. He's attached himself to Sarah like a spiritual cancer, turning what should be God's greatest blessing into a recurring nightmare. This demon represents forces that seek to destroy covenant relationships, corrupt sacred bonds, and replace hope with despair. Tobias was understandably terrified. "Brother Azariah," he said, his voice probably shaking, "I've heard about this woman and what happens to men who marry her. I'm my father's only son. If I die like the others, the grief would kill my parents. They have no other child to bury them or carry on our family name. I can't do this to them." It's a heartbreaking moment of honesty, a young man torn between duty, fear, and love for his parents. But Raphael's response reveals the heart of the entire story. "Don't be afraid," the angel said gently. "Listen carefully. Sarah was set apart for you from the very beginning of creation. This isn't random chance. This is destiny ordained by God himself." Then he laid out the battle plan. When they entered the bridal chamber that night, Tobias was to take the fish's heart and liver and place them on burning incense embers. The pungent smoke would spread throughout the room, and when the demon smelled it, he would flee and never return. But and this is critical, the ritual alone wouldn't be enough. After burning the organs, Tobias and Sarah needed to stand together and pray. They needed to ask God for mercy, protection, and blessing. The physical act was only the outward sign. The spiritual reality would be activated through their united faith. This wasn't magic. It was liturgy, a sacred action that releases divine power, specifically because it has performed an obedient faith that God has commanded. The smoke ascending would be a visible representation of their prayers ascending to heaven, and it would be their genuine faith, not the fish parts, that would break the demon's stranglehold. When they arrived in Ecbatana, the welcome was warm but tinged with sorrow. Raguel and his wife Edna were struck by how much Tobias resembled his father Tobit, reminder of family connections that had endured despite distance and hardship. When they learned this young man was actually Tobit's son, there was joy, tears, and immediate hospitality. But when Raphael promptly asked for Sarah's hand in marriage for Tobias, you could feel the tension shift. Raguel hesitated. His heart was heavy with the memory of 7 graves, 7 families shattered, 7 young men who never lived to see a second sunrise. He knew the danger. He knew what asking Tobias to marry his daughter might mean. But he also knew that Osara rightfully belonged to Tobias as their nearest kinsman. And perhaps, deep down, he held on to a fragile thread of hope that somehow this time might be different. The marriage contract was written and sealed. A feast was prepared with all the proper ceremonies. But underneath the celebration, dread hung in the air like smoke. Raguel, resigned to the worst possible outcome, quietly slipped outside and began digging another grave. Let that image sink in. A father preparing his daughter's 8th wedding feast while simultaneously digging what he assumed would be his new son-in-law's burial plot. It's heartbreaking, a picture of hope crushed by repeated trauma, until faith itself seems foolish. The feast ended. The moment of truth arrived. Tobias and Sarah were led to the bridal chamber. Edna, weeping, blessed her daughter and urged her to be brave. The door closed behind them, sealing them in with their fears and the invisible threat that had claimed so many lives before. This is the climactic confrontation, the moment when everything would either be redeemed or repeated. Tobias, remembering every word Raphael had spoken, took the fish's heart and liver and placed them on the glowing incense embers. Immediately, pungent smoke began filling the room, carrying that distinctive fishy odor throughout the chamber. But if we stop there, we completely miss the point. The text tells us that when the demon smelled the odor, he fled to the remotest parts of Egypt. But why? Was Asmodeus allergic to fish? Of course not. Something far more powerful was at work. Before Tobias and Sarah lay down as husband and wife, they stood together and prayed. Not a casual prayer, not a quick blessing, a genuine, heartfelt cry to God for mercy and protection. Tobias prayed beautifully, tracing their union back to the very beginning, to Adam and Eve, the first marriage ordained by God himself. He acknowledged that he wasn't taking Sarah out of lust, but in truth and righteousness. He asked God to grant them long life together, to let them grow old in his mercy and peace. And Sarah, standing beside him, said amen, agreeing, participating, uniting her faith with his. This was the real weapon. The combination of physical obedience, burning the organs as instructed, and spiritual faith, their sincere prayer, created a force the demon couldn't withstand. The smoke was the outward sign of their prayer ascending to heaven. And Asmodeus, a creature of faithlessness and despair, couldn't endure the presence of genuine covenant love rooted in trust in God. Meanwhile, something else was happening in the spiritual realm that the human participants couldn't see. While Tobias and Sarah prayed on earth, Raphael pursued the fleeing demon and bound him hand and foot in the farthest reaches of Egypt. The battle was won simultaneously on two fronts: human faith creating the opening, angelic power sealing the victory. This is the perfect illustration of how heaven and earth partnered together. Our prayers aren't just words disappearing into the void. They're powerful spiritual forces that create opportunities for divine intervention. And sometimes angels are fighting battles on our behalf that we won't discover until eternity reveals what was really happening behind the scenes. Healing, revelation, and the unveiling when ordinary becomes extraordinary. Morning light crept through the windows, and in the main house, Regal woke with a heavy heart. He had barely slept, expecting the worst. Quietly, he sent a servant to check the bridal chamber, probably steeling himself for the grief he assumed was coming. "Go see if he's alive," Regal whispered. "If he's not, we'll bury him quietly, before anyone knows." The servant entered the room cautiously, and what she found made her gasp, not in horror, but in joy. Tobias and Sarah were sleeping peacefully, alive and well, resting in each other's arms like any newlywed couple should. She ran back with the news, and suddenly the house erupted with thanksgiving. Regal and Edna fell to their knees, praising God with tears of relief and amazement. What they had feared most hadn't happened. The curse was broken. The darkness was lifted. Mercy had triumphed over tragedy. Regal quickly went outside and filled in the grave he had dug, probably laughing through his tears at his lack of faith. Then he ordered an extended celebration. Not just the traditional week-long feast, but a full 14 days of rejoicing. This wasn't just a wedding. This was a resurrection of hope. During this extended celebration, Raphael demonstrated his comprehensive care by traveling to Rages himself to collect Tobit es Silva from Gabael and bring him back to join the festivities. This angel wasn't just an exorcist or a healer. He was a guide, a matchmaker, a financial courier, taking care of every single detail of his mission with perfect attention. Finally, after 2 weeks of celebration, it was time to return home. Tobias was eager to go. His parents would be worried sick by now. But Raphael had one more crucial instruction to deliver. As they neared Nineveh, the angel pulled Tobias aside. "You remember your father's condition," he said. "When we arrive, take the fish's gall in your hand. Go directly to him, blow gently on his eyes, then apply the gall. When it stings, he should rub his eyes, and the white films will peel away like skin from an egg. His sight will be restored." Back in Nineveh, Anna had been watching the road every single day, counting the days and hours since her son left. When the expected return time passed with no sign of him, her worst fears consumed her. "My son is dead," she wept. "I'll never see him again. The light of my eyes is gone." Tobit tried to comfort her, assuring her that Tobias was safe and would return, but Anna couldn't be consoled. She went out to the road daily, scanning the horizon, refusing to eat, spending her nights in tears. Then one day, she saw them, 2 figures approaching in the distance, with a faithful dog trotting alongside. Her heart leaped. She ran to tell Tobit, crying out with joy, "Your son is coming!" The man who traveled with him is here. The reunion was everything you'd expect. Tears, embraces, overwhelming relief. But the most important moment was still to come. Following Raphael's instructions precisely, Tobias took the fish's gall and went to his father. He blew gently on Tobit's eyes, then carefully applied the bitter substance. Tobit cried out at the stinging sensation, but as he rubbed his eyes, something miraculous happened. The white films that had covered his vision for 8 long years began peeling away from the corners of his eyes like layers of skin. Light returned. Colors emerged. Shapes came into focus, and the first thing Tobit saw, after years of darkness, was his son's face. He threw his arms around Tobias and wept, but these were tears of joy, gratitude, and overwhelming wonder. "Blessed are you, O God," he shouted for everyone to hear. "You disciplined me, but you also showed me mercy. Now I can see my son again." The healing was complete. The mission had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Raphael, whose very name means God heals, had lived up to his identity in every possible way. He had healed a family's despair, freed a woman from demonic oppression, restored a man's physical sight, united 2 families in covenant love, and proved that God's providence operates even in our darkest valleys. Celebrations erupted throughout Nineveh. Relatives and friends came to rejoice with them. The wedding feast for Tobias and Sarah was held again for 7 more days, and this time everyone could participate with pure joy, untainted by fear or sorrow. When the festivities concluded, Tobit called his son aside. "We must pay our guide generously," he said. "Offer him half of everything we brought back. It's only fair for someone who has brought us such blessing." Tobias agreed completely. They approached Azariah with gratitude overflowing, ready to reward him beyond the original agreement. But when they made their offer, the time for secrets had ended. The moment of revelation had arrived. The humble guide who had traveled with them, eaten with them, counseled them, and protected them began to speak, and his words unveiled the mystery that had surrounded him from the very beginning. "Bless God and give him praise," Raphael began. "It's good to hide the secret of kings, but it's glorious to reveal and acknowledge the works of God." Then he explained everything. When Tobit was burying the dead in Nineveh, Raphael was there, recording his righteous deeds. When Sarah prayed in her despair in Ecbatana, Raphael was there, carrying her prayers before the throne of heaven. He was their intercessor in the heavenly court, their advocate before God's glory. He revealed that God had sent him specifically to test Tobit's faith and to heal both him and Sarah. Then came the climactic declaration. That opens a window into the very structure of heaven itself. "I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels who present the prayers of the saints and enter into the presence of the glory of the Holy One." Let those words wash over you for a moment. This wasn't just a random angel. He was one of the 7 part of an elite order of archangels who stand in God's immediate presence. Their sacred responsibility to receive our prayers and present them directly to God. This revelation transforms everything we thought we knew about prayer. It's not just words disappearing into empty space. There's an active, liturgical process happening in heaven where celestial beings carry our cries, our praise, our desperate pleas before the throne of the Almighty. Raphael continued. "Even though you saw me eating and drinking with you, I didn't actually consume anything. What you witnessed was a vision. I am a spiritual being who took on physical appearance for your sake. Overcome with awe and holy fear, Tobit and Tobias fell on their faces before him. But the angel's final words were comfort, not condemnation. Don't be afraid. Peace be with you. Bless God forever." And then, right before their eyes, he ascended and vanished, returning to the heavenly realm from which he had been sent. The mission was complete. The hidden angel had been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same. Seeing beyond the veil what this ancient story reveals about our modern lives, the Book of Tobit, at its core, is a story about learning to perceive reality beyond what our physical eyes can detect. It begins with a man who loses his physical sight, but never loses his spiritual vision. It ends with him regaining his physical sight while simultaneously being given a glimpse into the spiritual reality that had surrounded him all along. What makes this narrative so powerful for us today is how it challenges our modern assumptions about how the world actually works. We live in an age that dismisses anything that can't be measured, tested, or explained through natural processes. We've traded wonder for skepticism, mystery for materialism, and faith for empirical proof. The supernatural has been relegated to fantasy novels and superstitious thinking. Angels, if we believe in them at all, are decorative symbols on Christmas, cards not active agents, working in our daily lives. But what if we're wrong? What if the world is far more enchanted, far more mysterious, and far more spiritually active than our modern sensibilities allow? The Book of Tobit invites us to reconsider everything. It presents a vision of reality where heaven and earth are not separate realms, but overlapping dimensions, where prayers don't just echo into emptiness, but are carried by powerful celestial beings directly to God, where chance encounters might actually be divine appointments, where the stranger who helps you in your moment of need might be more than they appear. This story teaches us that God as providence is always at work even when all we can see is darkness, confusion, and suffering that makes no sense. Think about Tobit's experience. For 8 years, he lived in blindness, probably wrestling daily with questions about whether his faithfulness had meant anything. His good deeds seemed forgotten. His charity had led to poverty. His righteousness appeared to bring nothing but hardship. From his limited perspective, God seemed distant, perhaps even absent. But the truth was radically different. Every prayer was heard. Every act of kindness was recorded. Every moment of suffering was seen and accounted for. And at the exact right moment, not a second earlier or later, divine intervention was set in motion through an angel walking dusty roads in human disguise. This challenges how we interpret our struggles. We often assume that difficulty means we've done something wrong, or that God has abandoned us. But Tobit's story suggests a different possibility. Sometimes hardship is preparation for breakthrough, and darkness precedes the most profound revelations. The story also reframes our understanding of spiritual warfare. We tend to view battles with evil in either overtly dramatic terms, Hollywood-style exorcisms, or dismiss them entirely as primitive superstition. But Tobit presents something more nuanced, and actually more practical. The confrontation with Asmodeus wasn't won through elaborate rituals performed by religious professionals. It was overcome through ordinary people exercising faith-activated obedience. Tobias and Sarah didn't need special powers or theological degrees. They needed to trust God's instructions, even when they seemed strange, and then pray together with sincere hearts. The fish organs weren't magical talismans. They were physical actions that expressed spiritual trust. The smoke, ascending, represented prayers, ascending. The ritual became powerful specifically because it was rooted in genuine faith, not in the inherent properties of the materials used. This has profound implications for how we approach our spiritual battles today. We're not helpless victims of forces beyond our control. We're called to be active participants who partner with heaven through faithful obedience and persistent prayer. And sometimes God works through the most unexpected means, not in spite of their ordinariness, but precisely because of it. Perhaps the most stunning element of this story is its detailed angelology. Angels here are not ethereal, distant beings humming celestial music on clouds. They're God's secret agents on earth, powerful, intelligent, purposeful, and actively involved in the messy details of human existence. Raphael took on completely convincing human form. He negotiated wages, discussed family genealogy, offered travel advice, handled financial transactions, and even appeared to eat and drink. His disguise was so perfect that no one suspected his true nature until the mission was complete. This should fundamentally change how we view our daily experiences. How many times have you had a chance encounter that led to something significant? How many moments of unexpected help arrived precisely when you needed it most? How many coincidences have shaped the trajectory of your life? What if these weren't random at all? What if, like Tobit and Tobias, we're surrounded by hidden helpers and seen hands of divine providence, guiding, protecting, and orchestrating circumstances for our good and God's glory? The challenge for us is learning to see with different eyes, not to become superstitious or attribute everything to angelic intervention, but to cultivate awareness that we're reliving in a reality far richer and more spiritually active than mere materialism suggests. This story also speaks powerfully to anyone experiencing suffering that seems meaningless. If you in a season where you feel like Tobit, where your faithfulness as UNT protected you from hardship, where good deeds seem to bring more trouble than blessing, where you're tempted to pray for death just to escape the pain, this narrative offers hope. Your prayers are being heard. They being carried to heaven by beings whose sole purpose is to present them before God's throne. Divine intervention may already be in motion, moving toward you through circumstances that currently look ordinary or even discouraging. The breakthrough you're desperate for might be closer than you think. disguised as something you wouldn't recognize until the moment of revelation. And for those struggling with seemingly impossible situations trapped in cycles that keep repeating, facing spiritual oppression that feels unbreakable, dealing with problems that have defeated everyone who tried to solve them, Sarah's story offers remarkable encouragement. 7 times, she faced the same tragedy. 7 times, death claimed victory. 7 times, hope was crushed. But the 8th time, when she partnered with someone walking in faith and obedience to divine instruction, everything changed. The curse broke. The demon fled. The cycle ended. Life triumphed over death. Your 8th time might be approaching. The situation that has defeated you repeatedly might finally yield when you combine faithful obedience to God as strange-seeming instructions with genuine prayer offered from a sincere heart. The Book of Tobit ultimately calls us to embrace mystery while maintaining faith, to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers while trusting the one who does, to live with awareness that the sacred can break through into the mundane at any moment, to recognize that even our darkest valleys might be the very places where God is preparing the most miraculous interventions. So here's my question for you. Are you willing to look at your life with new eyes? Can you consider the possibility that the world around you is far more spiritually active than you've ever been taught to believe? Will you stay alert for angels walking in disguise and divine appointments hidden in ordinary encounters? Because if this ancient story teaches us anything, it's that heaven is closer than we think. Angels are more active than we realize. And God's healing is always on the way, even when all we can see is darkness. If this deep exploration into the Book of Tobit has opened your eyes to new possibilities about how God works in the world, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you ever experienced what seemed like a chance encounter that changed everything? Do you believe angels still walk among us today? How does this story challenge your view of prayer and divine intervention? And if this video blessed you, hit that like button right now. It helps more people discover these hidden biblical treasures. Subscribe to our channel, The Lost Gospels of Jesus, and ring the notification bell so you never miss when we uncover another forgotten story filled with ancient wisdom that speaks powerfully to modern life. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that their prayers are being heard, that they're not alone in their struggles, and that divine help might be closer than they think, perhaps even standing right beside them in disguise. We're just getting started on this journey through the mysteries and forgotten wisdom of Scripture. There are more incredible stories waiting to be rediscovered, more life-changing truths hidden in overlooked texts, and more reasons to believe that the God of ancient miracles is still actively at work today. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay alert, keep praying, and never underestimate the power of ordinary moments, because that's often exactly where heaven breaks through. Blessings to you all.